Hello there, our dear friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Yes, hello there, and welcome back.
As I pull the cute one closer.
He's so kind.
So, guys, please do subscribe both channels, Evolutionary and EEARTS. And we're going to start out taking a peek at New York, 1888. Now, I would say that is a serious snowstorm. Look at that.
That's like absolutely insane, crazy, beautiful, mystical. It's kind of fun, but I hope no one got hurt.
Or a series of snowstorms. Again, 1888. And here we are. We think, my God, we've never seen anything like this. Well, me being 57 years old, I couldn't even say that because I do remember 78. We had two really big blizzards within 10 days, I want to say, something like that. And I do remember the snow getting, really high. Maybe not quite that high, but pretty high. And that was up in Connecticut. Any of you guys remember the blizzards in 78?
No, I can't say that I do. Sorry.
Okay. Well, let's jump forward here. We got snowfall hitting Mexico. It's only the third time ever it's hit Mexico City, and you can see the little ones. What are they going to do? They're going to play. It's fun, you go hiking over in Mexico on snow, Mexico City. This is unusual, but again, the reality is we live in a world that we cannot trust what is told to us by the sources out there, as they have their own agendas going on. That's very, very evident. And we can't trust what's written in the history books. We really can only trust what we've seen and experienced with our own eyes and what we felt for ourselves. And this is snow in the Azores. Yeah, of course, it is on a mountaintop. This is the highest point in Portugal. Again, Portugal, beautiful, beautiful country.
It is beautiful.
Absolutely. You think about it, and again, because this is not a place you would typically associate with snow, but then we don't necessarily associate Jordan with a ton of rain, but it does happen. 1,700 tourists forced to evacuate this World Heritage Site, and it's called Petra. And Petra, we were watching Brian Forrester, and for those of you guys that don't know Brian, heartily recommend his work. He's done great work uncovering some of the mysteries on both sides of the earth, over in the Middle East, over in South America and Peru and Bolivia, and just uncovering these amazing sites, everything from not just Giza in Egypt, as when you go farther down towards the South Pole, which again, everything is kind of topsy-turvy in this world. There's so much hidden. There's all these other sites as you're looking at massive flooding in Petra. Petra is incredible, really. It's breathtaking to see. So it's been flooded after a freak rainfall that lashed this archaeological site and forced evacuations. Baalbek also. There's so much history. There's so many relics staring us in the face that we might not even really recognize the grandeur of. But now this has happened. In 2018, floodwaters rose 13 feet, swept away more than a dozen people. The desert, when it rains in a manner like it did here, can be extremely dangerous, and Cindy knows that.
Oh my gosh. Well, the desert is not created to absorb water quickly. I mean, this is why they always talk about flash floods in the desert. And, there's this place where I'm from near Death Valley, and it's called Titus Canyon, and it looks just like this. And there's a story goes where the rain had flooded so badly that it washed out hundreds and hundreds of soldiers because they couldn't climb up and out of the canyon. It's very devastating, very frightening. I'm sure it stays in the psyche. Yeah, not a good place to be when it starts raining in the desert. I would start looking for high ground.
Absolutely. Might as well talk about it this time. There's been quite a few times when Cindy's voice gets cut out, and it's nothing technical on this end. It's just the fact that everything we do goes over the internet. The internet was created by the military when you get down to it. So it is controlled by the alphabet soup groups. It's controlled by the controllers. And thus, a lot of times they want to interfere. And it's almost like somebody just hits a button when Cindy's speaking sometimes. So you hear, oh, yeah, and then, and we went, yeah. And meanwhile, there's somebody in some control room going,
I know, and I want to say thank you to you guys for sticking with us and sticking it out, and everybody who's been so kind, because we know that sometimes I don't talk loud enough in the mic, but I've been working on that, and I hope it's getting better.
And we couldn't possibly get any closer as we're sharing one mic, but we do have some new technology, and I'm not the technology guy in reality. So it's been sitting in a box for about 3 days now. But I'm gonna pull it out and start to try to put it together today, and this will allow us to use multiple mics and maybe take the technology up a notch.
It's gonna be exciting, guys.
Yeah, so cross your fingers for us and send positive intentions.
Yes.
As I said, I'd much rather work with wood, put something together than putting the wires together. I'm not necessarily a technically inclined guy with this modern day technology, and I have an aversion to it, honestly. I do have an aversion to it. I'm just kind of like a little bit more on the old-fashioned side.
And that's okay.
Meanwhile, we have fireballs seen over Georgia, 2 other states on the 24th. And this one's really cool. When you look at this one, and I'm not sure if it's going to show it clearly, you can see there's I think more than one thing here as it makes its way and goes past. And they always have this beautiful brightening, and I love the color. That's like one of my favorite colors.
It is really, really beautiful, and looking at that and feeling the energy, and that there is 2 things there. Well, I mean, I picked up that it was opening a portal and a ship coming in. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, again, our reality is far different than what we're given. This was seen Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and there was another one that was seen on the 23rd over 7 states: Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. Interesting as well. Again, they feel like they really do feel like they open a portal, boosh, and then they're gone. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, again, if somebody is of a 5th density, they can go right through rock. I mean, we've seen bizarre stuff. We saw a fighter jet. I know we shared this with you guys. Is that 95 or 15 that runs south in Nevada that we're on going to Vegas?
I want to say 95, but I'm not totally positive on that.
I think it was 95. We were on 95. Yeah, and we had we were around Amargosa in between. I think we were right around Amargosa or just before getting to Amargosa southbound. And there wasn't any sound that alerted me. But I just looked over towards Cindy. I was driving on my truck at like 75 miles an hour, and there was a fighter jet right next to us. Mm-hmm. He was right next to us. He was like 6 feet off the ground, 6 feet off the ground, and he didn't make a sound. Not a sound. It wasn't a roaring jet engine. It was silent, and he just followed us, and then he sped up, and he headed towards a rock wall. And then he just seemed to disappear. This was really weird, and it's not the first time. I mean, we had a helicopter come down and buzz us. And in fact, as we shared, we left Nevada because we didn't feel safe there anymore.
With the desert, everything blends in really quickly. So when that jet plane went toward the rock wall, it just disappeared, but it did. I mean, I was doing my best to keep an eye on it completely, and it did. It just went invisible. It was crazy.
Yeah, we were scrambling for the camera. I was like, where's the camera? Where's the camera? Get your phone. Get your phone. And we watched them, and there's this big rock outcropping on 95 South right before you get to the turn to go to Pahrump, and it looked like it went into the rock outcropping. Mm-hmm. Now, Did he go around it? Maybe. We were looking up and down and trying to maintain, our eyes on him. Again, our military has technology that will blow you away. And yet there are so many other beings around us all the time. And so this is a sighting. There's 2 sightings we're going to look at, and one's in Wisconsin, the other was in Vegas. Look at this. Now, there's numerous people. That was their battery. It wasn't ours. Look at this. Now, I don't know if that's time lapse or not. There's other people that's seen this, and this makes you wonder too. I mean, gosh, are they filming through a window or something? I mean, what's going on here? That's just absolutely bizarre. And you see lights that move as they're shaking too, so they might be filming through a window. Very, very curious. But the thing is, it's not just one person at one angle. There's many people that have gotten this, and this is up in Wisconsin. Multiple witnesses. And, again, it almost has the impression of spotlights in the air. Kind of, like there's nothing really there. What is that? Is that a show? Is that spotlights going on? But there's these lights that go by, and they have a similar look to them. See, there. Now, I would see that in the sky in Connecticut when, there was, a new store opening or something, and it would look a lot like that. But when we start looking at some of the others, as you can see, there's multiple going on. Was it multiple searchlights? And you can see different locations: Fredonia, Wisconsin; Brighteon, Michigan; West Bend, Wisconsin. I didn't take a look to see how close Brighteon, Michigan was to that. So when you see here, this is another whoosh, they go flying by. And that one, that's, when you look at that, this one comes from the left and goes right over and then comes into formation. This is very, very curious, to say the least, don't you think?
That was very interesting. And when I looked into that one, the energy that came forward this was really strange. It was not Pleiadian. It wasn't anything that claimed Pleiadian, but it was beings claiming to be deliberate about their actions. It's also for the purpose of observing humanity, not in a negative way, but observing humanity's reaction to this for the purposes of understanding evolution. So these were a group of scientists that are up there in a very large ship creating this for people to see the reaction.
So are you saying that these are not them in the ships, but they are creating this to get people's attention?
There's one mothership, and then there's these energies being created around that because they got such good technology. They can create anything they want in the sky, and this was for the purpose of understanding evolution. Now, it did feel like a bit, I'm going to use the word renegade, but it's not a negative thing. They're just beings who are wanting to observe evolution of humanity.
Okay, so these are beings that are not part of the Draconian grid, and they're not part of the Galactic Federation group either.
They felt very scientific, very sterile, very curious, really wanting to understand who we are, which I can appreciate that. Curiosity can be a good thing.
Yeah, and so this was just this one random light that pops up over here. This person just said, hey, I wasn't going to show this, but there it kind of is again. But it was the same night, same time. Here is again more. Now this is a little different. Here you have things moving slower up in the sky. And again, so right off the bat, we start thinking, are these ships? But like you're saying, these could actually just be plasma balls that are created to get our attention and just say, hey, humans, look at this. Isn't this cool?
And can I say another thing? When we see patterns like this, if you're one that looks at the stars and understands star constellations, they could be communicating where they're from.
Ah, great. Yeah, so they could be giving you a pattern to know, hey, we're from Sirius. Hey, we're from Pleiades. Hey, we're from wherever.
Yes, they could. So there you go.
That is super cool. So when I said plasma, do you feel like these are just plasma balls?
I feel it's some sort of deliberate pattern with plasma balls to give people a sign to see what kind of information we can pick up, because they do work within the parameters of cosmic law. They are not going to simply show themselves to humanity that would alter our course, our way of being. But yeah, I mean, this is something that if we can pick up on it, then it's fair for them to observe our reaction and say where they're from in this manner.
Yeah, and again, this is the type of thing we were watching for entertainment.
Yeah.
in the desert each night, and I'd be like, should I make a big fire, a little fire, or no fire, and should we just see who comes out and plays tonight? And we would just hit a certain meditative state of mind, and they would pop up. Now, why would that be? Well, again, they can tell when people are in a state of mind where they would perceive them and maybe even communicate.
Right. And they do. And it's just a matter of trying and opening yourself up to communication.
Absolutely. So we are in times. Again, this is the apocalypse. All this is going to be revealed. The big reveal of the power structure on Earth. We're going to pull that curtain and look at the Wizard of Oz for what he is.
Yep.
The power structure is going to be revealed, and other things, just like the fact that, again, there's all sorts of beings out there. We are not alone. We've never been alone. They understand this is a huge event. This is a huge event underway on Earth. This is the last days of a dark power structure that's going to be, watching its matrix crumble. And thus, it's going to open up the world for us to interact with beings from many, many different realities. And this is an article from the Daily Mail talking about these sightings and showing these and wondering what they are. So again, a lot of times when you get something like the Daily Mail, you just, laugh at it. So, go check it out, see if there's other sources, because there'll be those people that will throw the baby out with the bathwater per se and say, oh, it's Daily Mail, I'm not going to look any closer. But you go on Twitter and you find that, hundreds of people saw these things, so there must be something to it. And then the one over Vegas too, which feels very different. Again, there's a lot of technology that's going to be used by the military that is military technology. And that, just like Phil Schneider had talked about, there's military working with non-human beings all the time. Just as a matter of getting people they feel they could trust with enough, clearance. They'll grant them the clearance, and then, they'll be off. We were buzzed by a ship, a triangular ship in Mississippi around Hattiesburg, that blasted us with, for lack of a better word, a frequency that was very akin to radiation of a negative sort. And we did lose Zeke about 10 months later. He had rapidly growing cancer and had a heart problem. Boy, does that sound familiar, does it not? And Sassy started up with growth, and both Cindy and I felt like we were blasted with something. So again, the governments of the world, they're in with the dark side. This is what they're going to also let you know that there's ETs, but they're going to want to present the dark ones as the good guys. Of course, they want us to choose to stay with those that have been doing everything that we see of a negative sort upon the planet. That's they want us to choose to keep in this power structure. Talk about insanity. So when you scan this, you said there feels that there is something real to this. This is not, just a nothing burger per se. but this feels dark.
It did. This didn't feel good at all. This feels like a joint effort with military and other entities. It didn't feel good. This type of, if this is something that you see, I would be concerned because there is radiation coming off of these vehicles. Take very good care of yourself, do some serious detoxing. This is not a good thing. If you see this in the skies, these are the ones that will come and do the very negative type of, what do you call that? When you're taking up abductions. Right.
Yeah, and again, these are also the ones that are doing the cattle mutilations and taking the DNA from the cattle in order to create more grays, more gray aliens. There are many different species of grays. Yeah, and again, that's something. I mean, you could just say, there's many different human species, hominin, whatever terms we want to use and how broad a scope we want to use. It's the same thing with the grays. There are some that are like not really biological at all, and there are others that are biological. There are, some that are created from basically human and bovine DNA and utilized in our same density. But they do have technology to cloak them. Think in terms of the movie Predator. You're very, very physical, very, very real. And there are some, like those tall ones, they got some skills. They can meditate themselves upwards a little bit and literally disappear from our view, or they can also meditate themselves downwards in frequency a little bit and appear solid in front of us. So this was seen for a good hour. Then we got this, right? This guy's name is Mick West. And so he says that Las Vegas light pillar, these were light pillars. He gives you an explanation. He says there's buildings of the same size and shape that were somehow reflecting light up. It was a very, very unusually cold/warm atmospheric condition that gave you what you saw. You saw nothing. It was nothing. I debunked it. There you go. It was just this. It was just this. So, again, this is Kevin Claypack, intellectually curious. Good for you, Kevin. Be curious. Be curious. And he says, debunked. Oh, he's crying. Don't believe the debunker. Look at who this guy is and go a little bit deeper.
I know. They're always going to bring something out because they have to keep the story covered up.
So here he is. Warm evening light pillars, as they call them in China. UFOs in Vegas, little smiley face. Metabunk. Right? Skeptical Inquirer. This is what this guy does for a living. So we look at Wikipedia and we see it comes from the University of Manchester, debunking chemtrails and other conspiracy theories. He's a professional debunker. He's a fact checker that's working obviously for who. He's part of the system. And here is how to debunk chemtrails. So how to. He's giving you a how-to. How to debunk chemtrails. They're just condensation. That's it. Yeah, I mean, the grid patterns. Yeah, it's just, wind currents. That's all. There's nothing to see here. But yet we got declassified CIA, FBI, and documents from all over the globe that show, yeah, geoengineering's real. They've been doing this on purpose for years, decades. So, Mick, stick it. You're just one of those, you're just a paid for plant. You're a plant. You're totally a plant, obviously. There's nothing we should take seriously that comes out of your mouth because you're part of the problem. And declassified New Zealand Defense Force reports chemtrails linked to outbreaks of illness. Yeah, I mean, we watch them spray. This is not, there's some up there right now. And of course, there's grid patterns in front of the sun. All this is going to be revealed, and all we got to do is look. I mean, they've been declassified. I'll give you guys all the documents for a long time. You could go here. This is the University at Buffalo. And you could see United States federal government information, declassified documents. and they'll take you right to them. I've spent a lot of time on the CIA electronic reading room, the Black Vault. There's so many different. Oh gosh, there's so much we could go looking at that's declassified that tells you what the debunkers are saying has been debunked by the governments themselves with what they've given us out there in the open. But they know people aren't going to openly look. Not that many are. The U.S. government routinely conducts experiments on weather modification. Absolutely. They spray aluminum and barium. And then, again, we actually have precursors to the plague upon the land that have been spread up there for decades. Air Force bombshell. They admit they could control the weather through HAARP. This isn't CONS piracy theory. This is reality. This is reality. What hasn't been proven true? Again, here's Weather Modification Incorporated. You want to go check out their services? You could hire people to do this for you. Top 10 U.S. government experiments done on its own citizens. Yes, without their knowledge. The Tuskegee syphilis study. Stateville Penitentiary malaria study. The government conducted Stateville Penitentiary malaria study in the 1940s. This was Illinois. Involved over 400 prisoners who were illegally infected with malaria and subject to studies. This is just an act against humanity. This is our own government here in the U.S. in the 40s. And it goes on. Navy-sponsored beef blood transfusions. So this was a secret project to discover a possible biological weapon. They worked by injecting prisoners with cow blood to detect a protein that could be used in the event of an upcoming war. The 64 subjects who were used suffered catastrophic effects, ending in death. This is a crime against humanity that, again, the U.S. government has done. And this was Edward Kahn, biochemist at Harvard. Plutonium testing. During the mid-40s, the U.S. was busy with the Manhattan Project, right? Because of the effects of radiation from the bomb were largely unknown. Well, I don't agree with that either. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. So they experimented on their own citizens again. And we know people that were subject. We have dear family members that were subject to radiation that are currently living still out in the American West and still, feeling the effects of this.
Mm-hmm. I know. They're really ruthless. It's ruthless. And then they have the gall to hire somebody to come online and say, no, really, this didn't happen. Here, let's just take an eraser. And everyone who reads this, they'll just be able to erase it from their understanding. And this is so common.
Liars, liars, pants on fire.
I know. And we could just call good old Mick and tell him, and he'll erase all of this.
Yeah, Mick's probably in a Vegas casino, still drunk right now.
Probably.
World War II mustard gas experiments. The U.S. government conducted many experiments on its own soldiers to test the efficiency of gas masks and protective clothing. 60,000 human subjects were used in the studies, mostly Caucasian men. However, many Japanese and African Americans were also used to identify any possible skin differences with the equipment. This is just, it goes on and on. Operation Sea Spray, which I got a separate one. Operation Big Buzz as well. That's to see, what would happen if we infect people with yellow fever. Let's see. Let's release yellow fever laced mosquitoes in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Willowbrook experiments and measles experiments. These are real. Operation Sea Spray declassified. They conducted this over San Francisco. They released biologicals over San Francisco, a major U.S. city, without telling anybody. And yeah, one guy did die as a result of this. This is, your government at work. Operation Popeye. This is during the Vietnam War. Geoengineering project. Absolutely. They made it rain so bad that it washed away enemy troops. So, again, when we look to people like Mick, come on, it's pretty obvious, Mick, you're on the payroll. You're on the payroll. This is, again, part of the problem, not the solution. So when people come and realize that we are not alone, some people are going to go want to just find a great place to hide.
Oh, and look at this kitty Wampus. He's so cute. Liquid mode activate. Isn't he cute? Why do kitties do the sweetest, most cutest, wonderful things? I got to tell you guys, one of our family members just got a little kitty, and she's feeling very attached to this kitty. And she was asking me about the angelic nature of our animals, and can they really be tied to us that closely when we feel that extra pull to them? And the answer is yes. They can be angels coming to you from one life to the next to help assist you with your evolution. So, I mean, it's just so beautiful. And then, and then look at this guy. He's found his mama. All of his problems are solved. He knows where he came from. It's no longer a mystery, and he's probably never going to leave her side ever again.
So when they introduce the Anunnaki at some point in time and say, you know, here's your grandpappy Enki, yeah, it's not. It's not. I mean, these are the controllers. This is why they're giving us so much information. They are giving us a ton of truth. They are also giving us a lot of lies and distortion. They know we're going to uncover this. They know we're going to remember the things that we've forgotten as we've gotten amnesia along this ride humanity has. And as we wake up and realize, you know, the bigger picture, they can't hide from us that we're not alone, that we always interact with beings from other worlds, not just Earth, and other densities, both. So, you know, they're going to tell us the truth, and they do tell us the truth all the time, and they have infiltrated at the highest levels. And we're not really even talking about governments, but we're also talking about those that are exposing what the governments are doing. Because at some level, many of those that are exposing it are also, unfortunately, being part of the matrix at this point in time, and in the future, they're going to be utilized to, again, give a distortion. So you do have many people that are bringing mostly light that, unfortunately, at some point in time, will be utilized, and many of you, I think, are starting to realize that there are certain channels, again, that are saying things like, you know, hey, the Anunnaki are not all bad, and no, individual-wise, you know, there might be better, but these are not high-vibe people. They're not high-vibe people. I mean, there's no Anunnaki. There's nobody on Nibiru that is of 5th, 6th, 7th density. You know, these are not beings that can go that high up because they've made a choice. And so in reality, they've surrendered to the dark side. They've kind of given up a part of their free will, and they've merged in with that Borg. It's what they've chosen to do. They're trying to get you to choose the same choices that they made. And now that will keep you out of the higher, quote unquote, heavenly realms.
Right. Develop that inner discernment, you know, find out what is true and right for you and stick with that, and don't let any pure pressure or anything from the outside get you to do anything but be organic and healthy and good to yourself.
Absolutely. And for those that made certain decisions that they regret, it's never too late. Raise your vibrations up, make a daily practice of meditation, mantras, qigong, yoga, tai chi, things like that. Mind-body exercises. Take in as pure a food as you can. Get off the junk food, get off all the artificial flavorings and colors, and try to separate yourself from the modern system of things, because the modern system is all about entrapment.
Indeed.
As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without your support out there. We wanted to give a special thanks to Big Mike. Big Mike, you know, such a pleasure. Much love. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.